Hello friends, my name is Masood. Today we shall discuss about a topic, the functional and non-functional requirement. Today's topic is very interesting, especially if you have interest in requirement gathering and you want to know about that what is functional and what is non-functional requirement. So this is a very interesting and important topic for you. So let's start, friend. First of all, I would request to please subscribe to my YouTube channel and click on the bell option as well, so that my new videos can reach to you, and also you can follow me on the Facebook page as well. Friend, functional requirements are product features of functions that developers must implement to enable users to accomplish their task. So it's important to make them clear both for the development team and the stakeholders. Generally, functional requirements describe system behavior under specific conditions. For example, the system sends an approval request after the user enters personal information. A search feature allows a user to hunt among various invoices if they want to credit an issued invoice. The system sends a confirmation email when a new user account is created. Non-functional requirements not related to the system functionality, rather define how the system should perform. Some examples are: the website pages should load in 3 seconds with a total number of simultaneous users less than 5,000. The system should be able to handle 20 million users without performance deterioration. Types of functional requirement and their specifications. Functional requirements and their specification. Functional requirements can be classified according to different criteria. For example, we can group them on the basis of the functions a given feature must perform in the end product. Of course, they would differ depending on the product being developed, but for the sake of an example, the types of functional requirements might be authentication, authorization level, compliance to laws or regulations, external interfaces, transactions processing, reporting, business rules. Requirements are usually written in text, especially for agile driven projects. However, they may also be visuals. Here are the most common formats and documents: software requirement specification document, use cases, user stories, work breakdown structure or functional decomposition, prototypes, models and diagrams. Software requirements specification document. Friend, both functional and non-functional requirements can be formalized in the software requirements specification (SRS) document. To learn more about software documentation in general, you can see our videos as well. The SRS contain descriptions of functions and capabilities that the product must provide. The document also defines constraints and assumptions. The SRS can be a single document communicating functional requirements, or it may accompany other software documentation like user stories and use cases. We don't recommend composing SRS for the entire solution before the development kickoff, but you should document the requirements for every single feature before actually building it. Once you receive the initial user feedback, you can update the document. SRS must include the sections like purpose, definition, system overview and background, overall description, assumptions, constraints, business rules and product vision. Specific requirements, system attributes, functional requirements and database requirements. It's essential to make the SRS readable for all stakeholders. You also should use templates with visual emphasis to structure the information and aid in understanding it. If you have requirements stored in some other document formats, provide a link to them so that readers can find the needed information. Example, if you would like to see an actual document, download the SRS document created from Google, which includes all points mentioned above as we discussed. Use cases. Use cases describe the interaction between the system and external users that leads to achieving particular goals. Each use case includes three main elements: Actors, these are the external users that interact with the system. The system is described by functional requirements that define an intended behavior of the product. Goals, the purposes of the interaction between the users and the system are outlined as goals. There are two formats to represent use cases. Use case specification structured in textual format, use case diagram. A use case specification represents the sequence of events along with other information that relates to this use case. A typical use case specification template include description, pre and post interaction condition, basic interaction path, alternative path, exception path. A use case diagram doesn't contain a lot of details. It shows a high level overview of the relationship between actors, different use cases and the system. The use case diagram include the use cases, usually drawn with goals or ovals. Use cases represent different interaction scenarios that actors might have with the system. System boundaries. Boundaries are outlined by the box that groups various use cases in a system. Actors, these are the figures that depict external users, people or system that interact with the system. Associations, associations are drawn with lines showing different types of relationships between actors and use cases. User stories. A user story is a document description of a software feature seen from the end user perspective. The user story describes what exactly the user wants the system to do. In agile projects, user stories are organized in a backlog, which is an ordered list of product functions. Currently, user stories are considered to be the best format for backlog items. A typical user story is written like as a type of user, I want some goal so that some reason. For example, as an admin, I want to add description to products so that users can later view these descriptions and compare the products. User stories must be accompanied by acceptance criteria. These are the conditions that the product must satisfy to be accepted by a user, stakeholder or a product owner. Each user story must have at least one acceptance criteria. Effective acceptance criteria must be testable, concise and completely understood by all team members and stakeholders. They can be written as checklist, plain text or by using given, when, then format. For example, a search field is available on the top bar. A search is started when the user clicks submit. The default placeholder is a gray text type, this name. The placeholder disappears when the user starts typing. The search language is English. The user can type no more than 200 symbols. It doesn't support special symbols. If the user has typed a special symbol in the search input, it displays the warning message search input cannot contain special symbols. Finally, all user stories must fit the invest quality model, that means independent, negotiable, valuable, estimable, small, testable. Independent means that you can schedule and implement each user story separately. This is very helpful if you implement continuous integration process. Negotiable, this means that all parties agree to prioritize negotiations over specification. This also means that details will be created constantly during development. Valuable, a user story must be valuable to the customer. You should ask yourself from the customer's perspective why you need to implement a given feature. Estimable, a quality user story can be estimated. This will help a team schedule and prioritize the implementation. The bigger the story, the harder it is to estimate it. Small, good user stories tend to be small enough to plan for short production releases. Small stories allow for more specific estimates. Testable, it is if a story can be tested, it's clear enough and good enough. Tested stories mean that requirements are done and ready for use. Non-functional requirement example, as we already discussed that non-functional requirements describe how a system must behave and establish constraints of its functionality. This type of requirement is also known as the system quality attributes. if you want detailed information about types of non-functional requirements and how to approach and document, you can check our other videos as well. Usability. Usability defines how difficult it will be for a user to learn and operate the system. Usability can be assessed from different points of view: efficiency of use, the average time it takes to accomplish a user goal, how many tasks a user can complete without any help, the number of transactions completed without errors, intuitiveness, how simple it is to understand the interface, button, headings, low perceived workload, how many attempts users need to accomplish a particular task. For example, usability requirement can consider language barriers and localization. Task: people with no understanding of French must be able to use the product, or you may set accessibility requirements. Keyboard users who navigate a website using tab must be able to reach the add to cart button from a product type product page within 15 tab clicks. Security. Security requirements ensure that the software is protected from unauthorized access to the system and its stored data. It considers different levels of authorization and authentication access, different users' roles. For instance, data privacy is a security characteristic that describes who can create, see, copy, change, or delete information. Security also includes protection against viruses and malware attacks. Example: access permissions for the particular system information may only be changed by the system's data administrator. Reliability. Reliability defines how likely it is for the software to work without failure for a given period of time. Reliability decreases because of bugs in the code, hardware failures, or problems with other system components. To measure software reliability, you can count the percentage of operations that are completed correctly, or that track the average period of time the system runs before failing. For example, the database update process must roll back all related updates when any update fails. Performance. Performance is a quality attribute that describes the responsiveness of the system to various user interactions with it. Poor performance leads to negative user experience. It also jeopardizes system safety when it is overloaded. For example, the front page load time must be no more than 2 seconds for users that access the website using an LTE mobile connection. Availability. Availability is gauged by the period of time that the system functionality and services are available for use with all operations. So, scheduled maintenance periods directly influence this parameter, and it is important to define how the impact of maintenance can be minimized. For example, new module deployment must not impact front page, product pages, and checkout pages availability, and must not take longer than 1 hour. Scalability. Scalability requirements describe how the system must grow without negative influence on its performance. For example, the website attendance limit must be scalable enough to support 200k users at a time. So friend, thanks a lot for watching the video. I hope you like this video. If you like it, please share it with your friends and colleagues, and thanks a lot for watching the video. Thank you, friends.